Guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, episode 123, and of course we have a lot to talk about today. We take a look at some unfortunate injury concerns going into the latter parts of the season towards the finals race. We'll be giving you the All-Australian predictions for the team this year. Also taking a look at some of the most valuable players in the game and much, much more. So let's roll the intro and get straight into the new episode. Welcome to the Boundary Riders podcast, your one-stop shop for all your AFL content needs.
He looks at his options and Jack Ginnivan says, boys, you brought me to the club to do justice!
But this guy has Flog written all over him.
From a tap down, Reed sprints away from Petrarca, leaves him in his wake, takes a second bounce, takes a third. The sheer arrogance of Harley Reid. Finish the job, young man!
So let's get into the footy news from the week that was. But guys, before we get into the episode itself, we have a special guest host because he isn't a co-host until he starts coming back more than just once every now and then. But my brother is back. First time in at least 2 months, I would have to say.
Yeah, that's more than my, you have to talk to my boss about that one.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, you get paid to do that job. You don't get paid to do this. But I feel like at this point, you're more valuable here.
Yeah, I think we're coming into the more important part of the year, I think.
Yeah, that's what you're waiting
here,
for.
Yeah.
You had your mid-season break, had that little bit of a pre-season. Now you're ready to go for the end of the season.
Yeah, Port's out the finals. I can finally come back and feel like I can talk about football without any stress or anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, you've came back at a good time. But first thing I want to take a look at is the player that I think Port Adelaide needs to throw a checkbook at. Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera's game against Melbourne on the weekend, or specifically that fourth quarter. I mean, the one big question would be he hasn't signed with St Kilda yet. How much would you be willing to throw up for Port Adelaide to get him to your club? Because you don't have a first round pick, you don't have a second round pick either. You're giving them up. What would you be doing right now? Would you be throwing everything at him?
Yeah, I think you'd have to. I think the only capital Port Adelaide really have at the moment is Butters.
Yeah.
But
would you give up Butters? Or would you consider letting him go for maybe some picks back? Would you consider dropping probably Port Adelaide's best or top 3 player in the last 5 years? Would you consider that for Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera?
I think you have to, because the fact is that next year he's worth enough. He can just walk out of free agency to any club he wants.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it is a bit of recency bias, right? Like, you can always sit there and say, like, this guy's going to be a star when he's at the top of his game. But some of the stuff I saw, it's not even just the last weekend. It was been the last month or so at the very least. This guy can mark overhead. He can play in the middle. He can kick the ball off halfback. He can break through clearance. He can score goals. He doesn't miss a target when he... I mean, this guy has got so many great attributes to his game. I understand why. One, St Kilda want him badly. Port Adelaide want to try and bring him back home. And even the Crows, who, you weren't even here the last time we heard that rumour regarding Caroline Wilson and him not wanting to go to Adelaide. I don't even think you've been here for an episode.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and it's very interesting to think that, as everyone's saying at the moment, every week he's increasing his price.
Yeah, well, it is, isn't he? I mean,
he's showing different attributes of his game every single bloody week.
Yeah. So we'll get to it later in the episode, but we're going to be listing our top 5 most valuable players under the age of 24. Will he make that list? You'll have to wait and see. That was fucking, what a grabber. We're going to be getting so many people listening to this episode. So some mixed news regarding the Brisbane Lions, first of all, before we get to the really bad news. Lincoln McCarthy has pulled the pin on returning in 2025. He's made the call this week that he wants to play it safe. However, his career isn't over. Brisbane have agreed to give him a 1-year contract to 2026. So I think it was always going to be pretty tough for him to come back to the Lions lineup this late in the year. Obviously did his ACL, or was it round? It was very early on in the season, but he was obviously trying to push really hard for a return towards finals. He's ruled that out now. He's going to try and go again in 2026. So overall, good decision for his health, but pretty sad news there that he can't return for Brisbane. Obviously had a lot of injuries in his early career at the Cats. Hit some good form at the Lions. Obviously missed the grand final in 2024. Played in the heartbreaking loss in 2023. So hopefully he can come back to bigger and better things. But not so great news on the injury front for Brisbane. Kai Lohmann's going to be missing 3 to 4 weeks with a calf injury. Kitty Coleman missing 6 to 8 weeks with a quad strain. Connor McKenna as well will be out for 4 more weeks. And at this stage, it looks like Kitty Coleman, at the very least, season's all but done.
I think you can't really bring him in for a prelim or a grand final based on, well, he played one game basically.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty decent game too. But I think at this point, you just like with Lincoln McCarthy, you probably pull the pin.
Yeah.
I mean, what, 6 to 8? That's probably around prelim final time. They're trying to say
with the extra game, with the bye week.
Well, semi-final maybe.
Yeah,
But I mean, do you want to risk a guy?
I don't think he's had that much. With so much time out, there's just no point of risking him starting a new year.
Yeah, I think you give him a full. I would almost just pull the pin now and then just let him try and get back for pre-season, get back bigger and better. I think that's probably the safe bet. But sad news there for the Lions. On Collingwood, really bad news here for Lockie Sullivan. Has been ruled out for the rest of the 2025 season. Scans have revealed a grade 3 PCL injury. He'll be sidelined for 3 months. So big role player for the Pies. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. Harley Reid has had his injury looked at. It's on the minor end. It's a syndesmosis, but he has been ruled out for the rest of the campaign as well. Promising signs for the Eagles, though. He did come out in his post and said he'd be right back. I feel like he's going to re-sign with the Eagles.
I think now, with after what happened to Jason Horne-Francis a couple of weeks ago, then I think it'd be very blindsided if he did leave.
I think that would be the ballsiest act if he turned around and said, "Hey, Eagles, go fuck yourself. I'm leaving.
I'm going back to Victoria.
I'm going back to my mum, bro." That would be so funny. I would kind of a little bit of respect for that. We're just throwing absolute shade on Jason Horne-Francis. You can't live without your mummy, and then just leaving back to his mum's place. I mean, it would be a dog act to the Eagles, but I would have a laugh. Anyway, scans have confirmed calf strains for both Josh Kelly and Jack Barkley, and the duo will miss the remainder of the home and away season for the Giants. We get a little bit into that through the preview to the new round, but I think the Giants have got the coverage to at least cover those two until the finals time. I think they've got a good amount of depth. And one more news story or injury news. It is Max Michaelani looks set to miss the rest of the home and away season, as well as he will be missing 4 to 6 weeks with a hamstring strain. I think this is a really underrated one for mine. I think that he's been really important for Adelaide this year.
Yeah, I think he's helped restructure how they defend, I think.
And I think he adds something different as well, especially coming into finals. He's shown it once or twice throughout his early career that he can tag. And I think going into finals, I wouldn't have been surprised if they somewhat tested that in the next month or so, just to see if he could do it going into finals. Because I mean, they've been a little bit sort of seen as a team that can just flog teams down the bottom. They've beaten a couple of teams up the top, but I think when they're getting into the pointy end of the season, we've seen James Peatling do it every now and then, but I wouldn't have been too surprised if they would have seen him play against a couple of those mids, see if he could run with them. Yeah. But there's also the other side of it as well. They're playing against some of the better small forwards in the game, so he's one of the best lockdown defenders.
It would have been interesting because they play Collingwood, I think, next week. Like if he would go to Dacos, if he was playing, just to see if he could go run roll with him. So it would have been interesting, but I guess we won't see that till maybe finals. Yeah,
well, at this rate, that could be top of the ladder by the end of this. That game's probably going to decide who finishes top. I think it's actually 3 weeks away, but that's 2 weeks away. I think it's like around 23 they play against each other. We'll get into a little bit of fixturing right at the end of the episode. But for now, let's take a look at the predictions for the All-Australian team. So with a month left in the regular season, we will be taking a look at our... it's somewhat of a prediction, but also just what I think the All-Australian team should look like going into, the bye before the finals. They do it now?
I think so. I can't remember.
Yeah. So this is my All-Australian team for the season. I have got at fullback Josh Worrell, Harris Andrews, Lockie Ash. At halfback, I've got Max Holmes, Darcy Moore, Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera. In the centre, I've got Hugh McCluggage, Jordan Dawson, Bailey Smith. Half forward, I've got Isaac Heaney, Jeremy Cameron, Mitch Georgiades. At full forward, I've got Jamie Elliott, Riley Thilthorpe, and Keziah Pickett. For the followers, I've got the ruckman in Max Gawn, Noah Anderson, and Nick Dacos. And on the bench at this stage, I've got Matt Rao, Brodie Grundy, Caleb Sarong, and Ed Richards. Now, there are a few players that are going to miss out, of course. I've written some of them down as the more notable misses. In defence, who have missed out on my All-Australian team: Cal Wilkie, Nick Vlosten, Lockie Whitfield, Dane Zorko, Bailey Dale, Connor Rosie, and Josh Dacos. In the midfield that have missed out, still side bottom, Andrew Brayshaw, Finn Callaghan, Tom Green, Zach Butters, and Marcus Bontempelli. Forward line, I've got Ben King, Jack Higgins, Sam Darcy, Ben Keys, and Isaac Rankin. And the ruckmen who have missed out are Tristan Cherry, Darcy Cameron, and Luke Jackson. So let's go through your team and then we'll discuss a little bit more. So, what's your All-Australian team looking like?
So at full-back, I've got Nick Vlosten, Sam Collins, Lockie Ash. At half-back, I've got Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera, Darcy Moore, Connor Rosie. In the centre, I've got Bailey Smith, Nick Dacos, Hugh McGluggett. At half-forward, I've got Jordan Dawson, Riley Thilthorpe, and Keziah Pickett. At full-forward, I've got Jamie Elliott, Jeremy Cameron, and Mitch Georgiadis. The followers, ruck is Max Gawn, then Noah Anderson and Tom Green. And on the bench is Finn Callahan, Andrew Brayshaw, Zach Butters, and Ed Richards.
So there are a few differences between the two teams. Josh Worrell is not in your team. Harris Andrews is not either. Max Holmes is different. You've also got Caleb Sarong, Matt Rao, Isaac Heaney, who miss out from my team. And the other one was Brodie Grundy. I think that's the last one that was different. So Brodie Grundy's an interesting one because they would have to name 2 ruckmen, I believe, to get Brodie Grundy in the team. I don't think he takes over Max Gawn. Why is Brodie Grundy not in your team?
I just don't think they'll pick another ruckman.
I
think they won't.
You think they'll just go fill it up with the midfielders in the bench?
Yeah, that's basically what I thought.
Do you think there's a way that Brodie Grundy jumps Max Gawn?
Maybe if he gets injured on the weekend, maybe. But I think the consistency of Gawn has shown why he is so good and why he deserves another All-Australian jack.
Yeah, so I think if he gets this one, it's his 8th, which would be equal record high. Yeah, I think there's a couple of players who joins him: Lance Franklin, Gary Ablett Jr., Robert Harvey,
and
Dangerfield. Okay, yeah. So I think that those. I mean, I think he probably deserves to be up. He's probably, in my opinion, probably the best ruckman I've seen in my lifetime. Dean Cox, I didn't really see a lot of him, and Nick Natanui, probably the most versatile ruckman in the terms of, like, he's so athletic. Was such a great ruckman in himself, but probably is a little bit injury prone in his time. I think Max Gawn's the most consistent, best ruckman that I've seen in my lifetime for mine. So I would love to see him get an 8th one. The reason why I picked Brodie Grundy is the way he has basically since like round 7 or 8 I think has been the best ruckman since then. I think Max Gawn's been the most consistent, but I think Brodie Grundy as a whole, like if you judge both of them, they're probably tracking around even now. But Brodie Grundy, for me, has been one of the best ruckmen of the form that he's in right now. I've not seen a ruckman in that sort of form in some time.
Yeah.
For me. Now, one that you picked that I was a bit surprised by, I don't know if it's just your Port Adelaide colours shining through, is Zach Butters. He did miss a lot of the early part of the season, which is why I didn't pick Marcus Bontempelli. Now, Zach Butters has only played, I think, 1 or 2 more games than him. Why have you picked Zach Butters?
Maybe a little bit of Port bias, but I think he's had so much impact that a lot of people in Victoria especially love him as much as people at Port Adelaide. I just think that his game is a game changer. I know that doesn't really matter in All-Australian, but I think a lot of people will see that from him and probably on the panel of the All-Australian select.
Yeah. I think that's it'll be interesting to see if they do name, because I think Hugh McCluggage is a wingman. I think that's fair enough. The one I've got on there as well is Bailey Smith. Not really a wingman, really. He's played there at times this year, but it's not really a wingman. I will be interested to see. There are a couple of players on that list that could take that role this year. Ollie Dempsey's played a magnificent year off the wing for the Cats. But does he make the All-Australian team? I think it's going to be tough to pick 2 wingmen this year.
I don't think he'll get it.
I think the last few years, the wingmen who have been picked is Errol Goulden, who's like the mainstay. Obviously hasn't played enough footy to get in this team this year.
And I think Josh Dacos got it too.
Maybe last year or 2 years ago. I don't think he makes it this year. Interesting that they didn't really put him in the midfield after that great game against the Gold Coast. Hasn't really taken over. One as well you didn't put in was Darcy Moore. I put in...
yes, I did put Darcy Moore.
Sorry, you put Harris Andrews wasn't in your team.
Yeah.
So I've gone with Harris Andrews, you've gone with Sam Collins. Is there any sort of reasoning behind that? Because I think you probably only go with one or the other.
I think the 2 weeks that he played, that he missed on the 3 weeks ago, missed like 2 weeks in a row, I think it showed how much structure and leadership he has in that team. And even though he's not the captain now, I think that leadership was needed and has helped them defensively at times for the Gold Coast. And I think Harris Andrews has played very well, but I think it's a toss-up between them two, really.
Okay, that's fair. So I've gone with one that you didn't pick, was Isaac Heaney. And I think the reason why I want to bring up Isaac Heaney is, I mean, yes, there's a bit of Swans bias in that, but I also think a lot of people are overlooking this season so far because of how good a season he had in 2024. Because he's kicked the highest amount of goals for the Swans this year, and he's played midfield predominantly as well. He's pitched it forward, but he's had a 5-goal game, well, 2 5-goal games this year. I think that he's being overlooked a little bit, and I think it's similar to kind of how Dustin Martin was in 2017, and how much people, not to that extent, but I'm looking at how like he had such a great year in 2017 that everything after that was like, oh, was that really a great season from Dustin Martin?
Yeah.
A lot of people are like looking at it like, oh, it's not that good a season. I'm not comparing it to Dustin Martin like side by side, but I mean more of like the reaction of it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I'm sitting there thinking that Isaac Heaney probably deserves a spot. That's why I put him at half forward. Just chuck another midfielder into the half forward. Like, who gives a fuck?
That's kind of what I went with Dawson. I thought, well, he's played majority, a bit forward this year. He had like 1 or 2 games and he kicked 2 goals in the games. Like,
I think he took a mark in the forward pocket one time this year, so that's good enough for me.
So I think that's how they figure it out. Why not us?
Yeah, well, exactly. So there was one other forward as well that probably gets his first jacket, in my opinion, and I think you've got him too, Mitch Georgiades.
Yes.
I think that for mine, he deserves a spot in that All-Australian team at this stage. Unless he does get injured in the next 4 weeks, I think he deserves it. He's shown this year in a team that's struggled, a team that has a forward line that's pretty much patchwork at this point. He has done exceptionally well.
Especially when you think about it, last year he's come back from his ACL. This year was his first full season, having pre-season and all that. How important he is to that team of Port Adelaide, and how much Port Adelaide need him to be here. Yeah. And that Josh Carr really has got the mainstay in their forward line.
I think he's the guy you build around. We've seen Todd Marshall, what was it, 2021 or 2020, when he had that massive year, but he's been so injury prone since then. I don't know if you can put much reliance on him. It'd be great to have him back next year, hopefully, but you build the forward line around Georgiades at this point. Now, one more thing I want to bring up for you is you had 1 Fremantle player. Is that right?
Andrew Brayshaw.
You have 3 Port Adelaide players in that team. That's why I was struggling, because I think Fremantle as a collective this year have been very, very good, and hopefully they can continue that. Hopefully I don't eat those words like I would have said last year when they just capitulated at the end of the season. I've only picked 1 Fremantle player as well. So you've got Andrew Brayshaw. I've got Caleb Sarong. Is there a reason why you've picked one over the other?
Basically because the fact is that Sarong is taggable.
Yeah.
Is that when he is tagged, Freo loses. You've been saying for many weeks in the preview.
Well, I think last week we saw the West Coast Eagles go after him a bit, and they only lost by 50. They only won by 50 points. I think how West Coast have been this year, that's kind of almost a win for them.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll see what happens with Fremantle this week if Carlton try and target him.
And I think that, like you said, that they've had very much Freo, very much. They've had players come in and out in a way, like into form and out of form. Shea Bolton didn't really start well, then he sorted up. Luke Jackson's a bit different because he's a ruckman. They weren't going to pick many ruckmen, but
I can't see them picking. He can't beat Grundy and Gore.
No, but he's had that sort of a year. Brayshaw has been consistent. Sarong is taggable, so I don't think he can do it. Their defense has been very solid. Without being...
Well, Jordan Clark got an All-Australian last year, didn't he? Was he All-Australian last year or the year before?
Was it one of those, though? But I think it was last year, actually. But
he definitely made the squad.
He can definitely... I think he will get back in the squad. I think he's played a very good season as well.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think there's been so many of their players go in and out of form, into spectacular form and all that it's very hard to say he had a spectacular year.
Yeah. I think that's probably where I kind of lie with Fremantle as well. The reason why I picked Caleb Sarong is... The fact is that he is such a match winner for them. When he is on, they don't lose.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're right. He is one of the most taggable players in the game. But I think when he's at his best, that he's one of the best players in the competition. And I think this year has proved that when he is at his best, Fremantle are just almost unstoppable.
Yeah, and I think, well, I don't know who's on the panel, but just say for Kane Corns, just put it out there. If Kane Corns is on the panel, he will say that to everybody in the room. Says, not Sarong, he's taggable. He's crap when they get to... That he's not the match winner if he's getting tagged.
Yeah.
He won't win them the game. So that's just my opinion. But
I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I think both teams are pretty well solid. You definitely like to line up your team with the ones that we've put out there. I guess one more player we'll mention is Josh Worrell, because he was one that you didn't make your team, but He's had the most intercept marks this season at this stage. He's only in front of Nick Voston and Mark Keane, by the way. Who's pretty unlucky that he's not in. I mean, he's not obviously they haven't named the 40-man squad yet, but when they showed it on the selection thing on the whatever it's called, the website, it's very interesting he wasn't there. I thought he would be up there too.
But I thought, well, you had the first one in Josh Worrell. Voston was second. It's not like it was like fifth on that intercept possession.
Oh, it's not just the intercept possessions though, but Josh Worrell has had an amazing year.
Yeah, the amount of games that he's absolutely dominated.
I think as one of the general defenders in the game, I think he would have the most boundary riders votes this season as like a general, as even like a defender that's not a runner. Yeah. I think he almost may actually have more votes than like a lot of halfbacks this year. Because I've definitely remember picking him in quite a few games this season, getting votes, because he's just been that influential back there for the Crows. And he's definitely, not solely, because I think there's been like Mark Keane and stuff that have had brilliant years, but he's one of the few players at the Crows that has elevated that defence from like mediocre, almost a liability at Adelaide, to one of their strengths. And
like I think they've been showing that they're like one of the top three in defence this year. Like last year, that was their problem. That was their one thing that everybody was hampering on, that they can't defend. Yeah. Now they can.
Yeah, now they can.
How good they are.
And I think that's kind of like why people get frustrated at the Bulldogs, is because the Crows haven't really recruited anyone in massively to like improve their defence.
They're not known names, most of them.
No one wouldn't. If you don't live in South Australia, you probably don't know many of the Adelaide Crows defenders. Yeah, but yeah. Overall, I just wanted to bring up Josh Worrell as well. I think he's had a very underrated season for mine, and I wouldn't be surprised. I in my team personally, I would pick. I think he's had a brilliant season. But guys, that's basically our All-Australian teams for this year at this stage. Make sure to let me know down below how wrong we are, how many players we missed out on, how many, just make sure to absolutely rip us a new one in the comments.
And just tell us who you absolutely think should have been in it.
Yeah, make sure to let us know who you think should be in the team that we have missed out on. Someone that you would take out. Personally, for mine, if it was me for you, I'd take out Butters for Heaney. But that's not my bias or anything. Not whatsoever.
And I really am annoyed that the fact is I picked so many Crows players in the team.
How many did you pick? What? 2? 1?
Yeah, they don't.
Oh, Dawson.
Yeah, so Dawson, Philthorpe. I didn't think they should have.
I agree. Take them all out.
Yeah, I am happy that I picked more Port players in the team.
Yeah, definitely. You got more Port players in your team than Crows players. Anyway, let's move on. Like I said earlier in the episode, I wanted to bring up the MVPs, or the most valuable players that are under the age of 24. Because I think right now, the players under the age of 24 are going to be the next best thing, the next best players of the competition. You think of this generation of footballers, you got the Marcus Bontempellis, the Patrick Dangerfields, probably more than I can mention, but that's probably what I'm going to leave it on. Isaac Heaney, probably. Jeremy Cameron, but even he's a little bit older now. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like these are going to be the players that are on billboards. These are the ones that are going to be on posters in kids' rooms, advertising, all that sort of stuff. Petrarca maybe as well. But These are my top 5 most valuable players under the age of 24. So these are the next big thing. These are the guys you're going to want to watch for the next 10 years, basically. This is in order, so you can definitely question the order as well, but these are my top 5 most valuable players. At number 5, I've got Riley Thilthorpe. Number 4, Errol Goulden. 3, Nick Dacos. 2, Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera. And 1, Sam Darcy. Now, there are a few players that have missed out. Harley Reid would probably be the biggest one that I think some people would be saying deserves to be on that list. Jason Orne-Francis, Mac Andrew, Max Holmes, Josh Tracy, Josh Weddle, Ollie Dempsey, Harry Sheasel, Nate Caddy, Finn Callahan, Mitch Georgiades, and Aaron Cadman. Some players that did miss out probably deserve to be on that list. Now, let's get to your top 5, because I think we've got a pretty similar list. I think maybe one's different at this stage.
So at number 5, I've went with Sam Darcy. At 4, I've went with Finn Callahan. At 3, I've went Riley Thilthorpe. At 2 is Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera. And 1 is Nick Day.
Okay, so you've gone with Sam Darcy as the 5th most valuable player. Now, that's still very high. I feel like people are going to get upset when people are like, oh my God, you put him at number 3, Nick Dacos, as the most valuable player in the competition. He's obviously number 1. But I mean, I think that's pretty high at 5 out of the top. How many players do you think are under the age of 24? I think there's a lot of them.
Nearly close to about 80 to 100.
There'd be more than that, I think, anyway. But yeah, you're right. Sam Darcy is a little bit lower than what... I mean, I have him as number 1. So
I have him at 5, yeah.
You have him under Riley Thilthorpe as well. Yeah. So what is the attribute for Thilthorpe and why you think he's probably more valuable than Sam Darcy.
At the age of less than 23 and under, he's like built like a brick shit house.
Yeah.
And I trust him more to be able to bang through, to like crash a pack and like body in the ruck than a Sam Darcy. Yeah. I think that you look at it, I think he's built really big for someone at such a young and inexperienced age of the AFL.
Yeah. I'd probably go with Sam Darcy for mine. So, I mean, basically what we're saying is that you would pick Thilthorpe over Darcy if you had to pick. Yeah. I'd probably go with Darcy over Thilthorpe because I think that he can be used all around basically from the wing all the way back to the goal square. I think he can be used in many different attributes. I do think he can pinch hit in the ruck, but overall, if I'm picking Darcy, or I would be picking Darcy or Thilthorpe as a forward, not as a pinch hit ruckman. Even though I think they can both do it, I'm picking him as a sole forward, and I think that Darcy can play a variety of roles. If I'm looking at it for an example, Darcy's the first player I'm picking in my team. If I'm picking another forward to join him, I think that you could pick any sort of other forward to go with him and help him out, but I also think he's going to be the man. For Thilthorpe, I think you have to have someone who's going to get out of his way. I think that Darcy can make his own, he can get his own ball. I think he can get, and that's not to say Thilthorpe's bad. I'm just trying to give my arguments for why I would pick Darcy over him. And both of them are valuable, by the way. If you pick both of them, let's say you pick both of them as well, I think that you can get Darcy all the way from the wing, all the way to the goal square. I think Thilthorpe's got that 30-metre range, if you kind of look at it that way. And again, I think that Thilthorpe's going to be an absolute star. I could absolutely eat my words and be wrong. Now, I've picked Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera over Nick Dacos. Now, that is going to get me probably a bunch of death threats from Collingwood fans, but I'm going to be telling you why I'm picking him over Nick Dacos. And again, both of them are insane players, all right? I'm sorry, they are. But the reason why I'd pick Naz is because he can do almost anything. For one thing, it didn't take him this many games. It didn't take him 50-plus games to take a contested mark. Naz took that against two players in the forward line, kicked the clutch goal. Nick Dacos didn't do that.
He did in the centre with... And most people didn't question it if it was a contested mark. Yeah.
But in all seriousness, the guy can do so much and he can do anything. Now, again, there's a lot of people would say it's recency bias of how well he's done the last month or so. But I think that the attributes he is showing show that this guy is going to be, I think, could be the top 3 player in the league by mid next year. The guy has got so many great attributes to his game, and the thing is, he's got some flaws. I think sometimes he can mess up with the footy, but I also think that the one game this year that I've seen that he was tagged so far was against James Jordan, and I thought James Jordan did a pretty good job. But even then, Nasiah didn't have the most amount of disposals, didn't have the biggest impact. But when he got the ball, he was able to break away. He was able to find someone to get the ball to. He was able to find some space. And when he did have the ball, his teammates looked better for it. I don't know if that's really a great explanation, but he can mark the ball overhead. He can go forward now, apparently. He can play through the midfield. He can go off half back if they need him as well. So he's going to be one of the most untaggable players in the game because he can go all over the ground, wherever you want him. Let's look at the best taggers in the competition. Is James Jordan going to go line up with him at full forward? I wouldn't go anywhere near him. He just took down 2 Melbourne defenders in the last quarter, kicked a clutch goal. By the way, he's also got the smarts as well. We saw how that was in the last game. But I think that's why I'm going to pick him above Nick Dacos. Now again, Nick Dacos is one of the best players in the game. He is one of the best midfielders in the game. I just don't think he has that the flair and I don't even know what the word would be, but just that it factor that Nasiah does at this stage. God, I'm going to be getting so many comments, so many messages are going to hate me. You've picked Nick Dacos in front of him though, so you can try and save this podcast, save the whole channel at this point. What have you picked Dacos in front of him?
I'm just going to glaze him like most Collingwood fans do, but
we're all just jealous at this point.
Yeah, we're just in awe of Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera at the moment. But I think the fact is that if he didn't get injured in the last 2 years, he would have had 2 Brownlows by this stage, plus a premiership.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, one ruled out an injury. One was because Patrick Cripps, I don't know who
had the best lawyer in town. Let's be honest, that's what he had.
Also got fucking 45 votes in a season.
Yeah,
how's that? That's unbelievable.
I think, but even on the weekend and lately, he's been saying that Craig McRae's been saying, we're going to try and manage his minutes, kind of do this and that. On the weekend, he had he kicked 3 goals and 30 plus as well or something.
Yeah. I think he is like the epitome of just consistently great.
I think
football.
he's shown consistency since he started. Really, like he's had a few bad games as every kid does, but I think he's been very consistent for. And the fact is that he plays for Collingwood. I think that for having in such a big club, he's leading that team.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the spotlight on him every single week.
Yeah, and he's been the captain already. He's been interim captain. So when he gets the chance, when Darcy Cameron is getting a bit more older, he's going to take the mantle. He's going to take that team.
You mean Darcy Moore, yeah.
What up?
Darcy Cameron.
Sorry, Darcy Moore. Sorry, yes, Darcy Moore. But
I think he probably is the next captain, yeah.
He's already commanded the midfield anyway, but it helps the fact is that Pendlebury and Sidebottom are there. But he's already doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably a point to me, to be honest, is like Nasiah is leading a midfield of Jack Steele, Marcus Windhager, McRae. I mean, let's be honest, like Nasiah is leading a team that's crap. Yes. Nick Dacos is kind of getting, I wouldn't say handheld, but like he's getting the best help you could get.
The most experienced help in the world.
Yeah. So
in the game.
Nasiah's doing it on his own.
Yeah.
But I understand, and I don't necessarily disagree. Like I think
it's in very small margins.
Yes, exactly.
Very small margins. And to be honest, this top 5 and what we've got coming, AFL's looking pretty good at the moment. We're in a good space, even though there's many problems with umpiring and higher ups. The players that we've got.
Yeah, they're going to be
sit and enjoy. Just sit and enjoy it now.
Yeah. One more that I will bring up before we get to the rest of the episode. You've picked Finn Callaghan. I've picked Errol Golden. Finn, obviously a little bit younger. That 2021 draft just keeps on looking better and better at this point. But why Finn?
Did you watch the Derby on the weekend? The Derby? I think that third
right.
quarter was literally dominated him.
He's had one good game.
Dominated the whole... I think... Like St Kilda at the start of the year gave him like the most lucrative deal you'll ever get until later on when we see all these other ones. But I think we're trying to see why St Kilda gave him the war chest, why they were giving it to him. I think he's a very good player. His speed from stoppage is like you've never seen from from such a young kid. Like he just demands the ball and he uses it so well.
I was about to say, he's one of the best users from a stoppage player. Yeah. Like we see so many stoppage players these days just put it on the boot and hope that it just lands in their teammates. But 9 times out of 10 it lands in the opponent and they down the other end.
The Giants want to give him the ball because they know that he'll hit Jesse Hogan. He'll hit Adam Cadman. They will hit him.
Yeah.
They want to lead to that. Any experienced player wants to lead to that. Any inexperienced player wants to lead to that ball because they know Finn will hit it.
He's going to hit you he's going to hit you here. He's going to hit you through the throat at that point. Yeah. Now the reason why I agree with a lot of what you're saying about Finn Callaghan. The reason why I'm going to go with Errol Goulden there because he was probably up there. Him, Aaron Cadman as well. They were all up there for that choice. The reason why I'm going with Errol Goulden though is basically on this year. And I know it's a bit of an interesting call because of how he's barely played. But since his return, I think he's proved to a good side. I know that Sydney have done shit a little bit this year, but he's proved to this side that how important he is to the Swans. He has also brought a great attribute to his game that he is almost coaching the team on the field. The fact that, I don't know if you've watched a lot of Swans games.
I've heard them say that though.
Yeah, he's starting to become a lot more confident in himself. And even though sometimes he'll try and go for that, all or nothing kick through the middle of the ground and miss it. But there are so many times when he pierces that kick, but he's also talking in front. You can see him talking at stoppage. He's 23 years of age. He's calling players like Isaac Heaney, stand there. We're going to build this play from here. We've seen the goals that he's kicked, like that one against St Kilda a couple of weeks ago. He's leading the midfield. He's leading this team at the age of 23. So his sort of leadership in this young age is why I've put him on this list. And the fact that I'm a Swans fan as well does kind of help. But he is on the list as well. Now, that's probably all I got to say. I think that the other players kind of write for themselves in the end. I think, what was the other player we picked? We picked Phil Thorpe, Darcy, Dacos, Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera. Oh, we kind of mentioned them all in the end anyway.
And Phil Thorpe.
Yeah. Who's one would you say probably just missed out for you?
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah. For me,
probably it is Goulden. I think Goulden's very much
Yeah.
on the cusp of like it's millimeters between 5th and 6th.
Yeah.
And all that.
for me, and it could be a bit of recency bias, but for me, it's Aaron Cadman. I think he's the next Jezza Cameron, and we don't have many of those forwards in the game.
No.
Like, we just don't. Like, who else is going to be that next guy? Like, we're talking right now that Jeremy Cameron, at the age of 34, could be kicking 100 goals by the end of the season.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like,
So I think Aaron Cadman's the next big thing. I think that he's going to be like, he's not a Darcy, he's not a Phil Thorpe, he's not a Tracy, he's not one of those younger forwards. They're all kind of like bullish forwards. This guy can take the pack mark. He can get up the ground. He's starting to get stronger too. So he's not going to be long before he starts to become that bullocking forward as well.
Yeah.
And luckily for him, he's got a better forward in front of him as a key forward as well.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
as long as Jesse Hogan stays fit.
yeah, but I mean, you got Norton for Darcy. Darcy's better than him. Sorry, Norton's had a good month or so, but I still think Darcy's better. Fogarty with Phil Thorpe. Fogarty is still a good player, but Phil Thorpe's better. Tracy's got Amos. Tracy has proved to me, though, he's better. But yeah, I mean, I do think that the fact is that Cadman could almost bully some of these second defenders because they have to go to Hogan.
Yeah.
Because he can kick 10.
Yeah.
And Cadman hasn't shown that yet, but I think he can.
I think he will. I'll say this: he'll kick 10 in one game next year. I'm that confident how good he's playing at the moment.
Yeah.
He just another year another preseason in the gym. He's bullocking those players, and then you've got 2 of them.
Yeah.
The Giants' future looks pretty good at the moment.
Yeah, what was it? When they were in bad form, Kane Corns was saying that he's really struggling to look at the Giants list and all that sort of stuff. And now, 5 weeks later, I mean, sometimes it is just a little bit like jumping on the bandwagon a bit. But yeah. Anyway, I think that's probably where we'll leave it with the most valuable players under the age of 24. So make sure to let us know, guys, again, how many we got wrong. Like, truly, like, send me threats about how much Nick Dacos is better than Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera, and I'll read them and just say, did you see that last quarter?
The sad thing is, I didn't even see it. And I was messaging you.
Yeah, I messaged you. He
I was like, what are you talking about? Like, they lost. I watched the third quarter. They're down by 46 points. And then you're like, and I looked at something on it, and I was like, wait a minute. That said 96, and they were 90.
Yeah.
What?
They came from nowhere.
And I've watched it so many times, the highlights from every single social media, different accounts, all of it. And I still can't believe they lost that and how much Naz changed the game in a matter of that quarter.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was something that you probably won't see again. And
Yeah, and
for
it's
the
just
fact
like-
that it came from St Kilda of all
Yeah,
teams.
exactly. And it was funny how it's the 25th anniversary of Marvel Stadium, and everyone's bringing up their what's the best memory of it? Lacrosse 11,
Yeah, 12 goals.
12 goals at Marvel.
And then Jeremy Cameron
then-
gets 11
And
there.
then he gets 11 the day before, and Naz is like, get out my way, hold my beer, I'll show you what a performance at Marvel's like.
Yeah, I mean, it just like 2 great performances as well. It's really interesting because 11 goals, you would think that's amazing, but no one's even talking about. I mean, it is against North Melbourne. Like, who cares?
And I was there at Marvel when Ben Brown kicked 10 for North Melbourne.
Yeah.
You know, those are the days you never forget.
Yeah,
And
no
not-
St Kilda fan will forget that.
No, and yeah, exactly.
They need to do everything to sign him.
Oh.
I mean, Port Adelaide will be fucking going hard. But
Anybody, yeah.
at this point, don't even bother about Tom DeCone.
Oh, no, yeah.
I mean, at this point, you'd say, look, Tom, just go to Carlton, take your 1.2 there.
What you think? What you said before is that the thing what Marshall did is that now if say this was next year and Tom DeConing's there, did they have the same mindset? I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. You're like,
I think, yes,
bugger
Marshall's
off-
a little bit
yeah.
older.
Yeah.
Yes, Marshall's a little bit older, but surely you just say to Naz, like, look, if you want to stay, like, we will literally say to Tom DeConing, go away. We will make you the most highest paid player in the game.
Yeah.
I think you would at this point. Because if they're, like, trying to skimp out a little bit on Naz, he will go.
Yeah.
There's still talk at the moment that he's undecided, and that's fair enough. But surely there's got to be an inkling at St Kilda thinking, he's gone here.
Yeah.
Surely you sign at this point. He's round 21.
Yeah.
Like, we thought it was a shock when Marcus Bontempelli didn't sign, like, last week.
Yeah.
So surely there's got to be some concern there. And I would be, is Tom DeConing the guy you build on?
I don't think so. I think he's been bullied a few times to Ruckman at the moment.
Who would you rather? Naz or fucking Tom
I'd
DeConing?
rather have Naz with Marshall than
Yeah. Would you rather
Naz
Naz-
than Naz with DeConing.
Or would you rather?
yeah.
I mean, I'd rather have Naz and Marshall
Yeah.
than DeConing and no Nasiah.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Anyway, sorry for the Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera glaze, but I'm sure you've heard it enough. But I think We're tired of the Nick Dacos. It's time for the Naz Glaze at this point.
Let's be honest. If he comes to South Australia, we're really gonna have some.
You're gonna be getting.
We're gonna have some fun every week about it.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be fucking getting a tattoo of him on your fucking forehead. I think most Port Adelaide. Well, if he goes to Port, once if he goes to the Crows.
We riot.
Yeah, we riot at this point. Bring back Ken, please. Anyway, let's get to our preview to the new round. Of course, you made a couple of roughy picks this week, so
yeah,
you're going for. I don't know why. Are you trying to get the top spot?
I actually think that I think it's very hard these days. You never know. Teams are resting players now for finals. Basically, that's what I'm looking at. It's like there might be a few roughies near the end of the year. You just never know. I think we've got through the hard period of winter, coming through into August and all that. I think you never know. There's going to be a few upsets. People want to fight for finals, but some people want to go to surgeries and shit like that. So
yeah, and there's probably only 9 spots now. So one team is going to miss out at this stage. Early pick, because we don't know if you're going to be here for the future weeks. Who do you think is the team that's going to miss?
I think it's Hawthorn.
You think Hawthorn?
I think Hawthorn. I just think that they've got a really tough run.
Yeah. Well, I'd probably go with the... It's hard. It's either the Gold Coast or the Dogs for mine. I think Hawthorn can get a win. I think they can pinch one, and that's, I think, all they really need. They need 14 wins to make finals. I think they can find one.
They've got, the Suns have got Port, Carlton, and Essendon again still, because you've got to think they've got 5 more games.
Yeah.
So I think 4. I think they have to make it, but you also say that about the Dogs. They've got the best percentage ever in the bottom 10 but in this area. Like, 130 plus now at the moment, the percentage. Like, that's just ridiculous. And if they don't make it, it's actually funny.
Yeah, it'd be pretty embarrassing. I mean, the fact that they've been able to, it does show though that they are flat track bullies. If they're gonna beat up on the teams below them, and then we've seen them flog Port Adelaide, Essendon twice, West Coast. I don't even think
they haven't played them yet.
So they'll get another flogging there. North Melbourne they've beaten up on a couple of times.
They haven't played Melbourne either.
Yeah, so I mean they didn't even get a good win against Sydney, and they're a team down the bottom too. So yeah, I mean I think there's it's an interesting watch just for 9, but there is a huge gap between them as well. So let's get into the preview to the new round, of course. A couple of big matchups coming up with finals ramifications, and the first game we're going to be taking a look at is the Thursday night contest between the Dogs and the Giants. Now the Bulldogs are coming off another smashing against a bottom team, while GWS are arguably the most informed team in the competition with 6 wins in a row. Now the game being at Marvel probably suits both teams, if I'm being honest. The Dogs have smashed teams there for fun throughout the entire year, while the Giants have won a couple of games there when they've been under the roof this season, and with them wanting to have that ball movement of the tsunami-like aspects, I'm sure it won't hamper either team. Now, the only team that the Western Bulldogs have been able to beat that was inside the top 8 so far this season is GWS earlier in the season in Canberra. So, a lot different conditions this game will have. Now, the Giants are going to be missing quite a few good players this week. They're going to be missing Buckley, Toby Green through suspension, and Josh Kelly. So I think the Dogs' tools can get on top with Jack Buckley being out. However, Sam Taylor's return last week, he was absolutely brilliant, and Lee Kalia is the perfect replacement for Jack Buckley. So I don't think they'll have any extra concerns on the big tools of the Western Bulldogs with Jack Buckley being out, because Lee Kalia is a very handy replacement. Now, the last time these two teams met, the Dogs absolutely smashed them in the second half, and in fact, they have actually beaten the Giants 9 out of the last 10 encounters since 2020. So the Bulldogs have a very good run of form against the GWS. But in saying that, I'm actually going to be going with the Giants. I really don't trust the Dogs' form against top 8 teams, and with the Giants in red hot form right now, I really can't go past them. I think GWS in the last 6 or 7 weeks have really proved to me that they can be a contender this year, and I think they'll be able to cement their spot inside the top 8 with a win here. In more recent years, we've seen Adam Kingsley's Giants really start to hum as the season gets to this point of the year. I think I've seen a statistic that in July under Adam Kingsley, they're yet to lose a game, and this game will be on Thursday, the 31st of July, so I think that record will continue on. I think the Giants have this one pretty well comfortably, and my brother is picking the same. He has said that even without Toby Green, they should win. Buckley injury does hurt, but he doesn't trust the Bulldogs to be able to produce anything against the top 8 side this year, so he's going with GWS as well. Next game, Friday night, another massive contest for finals ramifications. It is the Crows up against Hawthorn. Now, the Crows are probably one of the most exciting teams in the competition right now to watch and sit second on the ladder, ready to snatch that top spot. While Hawthorn have won 6 out of their past 7 games. And one of those wins actually came against the Crows only 6 weeks ago. However, that game was down in freezing conditions in Tasmania, so this is a much different ball game. Now, something to keep in mind mind as well as the Hawks are coming off an 8-day break while Adelaide are coming off a 6-day break. And I'd be taking this into a little bit more account if it wasn't for the fact that they absolutely smashed Port Adelaide in that second half. So it wasn't really much of a contest. So I think they'll be fine to get up for this game. Now, the last time these two teams met, Sam Berry actually went to John Newcombe as a pseudo tagging role and really shut him down well. So I wouldn't be too surprised if this eventuates again at Adelaide Oval. But I think the big matchups are going to be down the bookends of the ground. So many match winners for either side. You got Gunston in red hot form, Ginnivan and Watson for the Hawks, and then down the other end for the Crows, they have so many weapons up forward. You got Thilthorpe, Fogarty, Rankin, Keys, Walker, just to name a few. Even their midfielders pinch hit with goals. So I think it really sets up for a mouthwatering contest. But I think if the Hawks are going to be able to get up in this game, they have to get on top in the midfield, and I mean they have to dominate. Now, Lloyd Meek recently re-signed. He's going to have to do really, really well in the ruck. But John Newcombe has to be the man, in my opinion. He's been down over the last month or so, and if he doesn't respond in this game, I really can't see a way where Hawthorn get this done. So, with it being at Adelaide Oval and the Crows being probably the best team in the competition right now for mine, I can't go past the Crows. Last week, Adelaide proved to me that they aren't messing around. Now, yes, Port Adelaide weren't great at all, but they showed to me that they could kick a massive score no matter what the conditions are. And I don't think Hawthorn have enough to stop every single avenue to goal that the Crows have. So that's why I'm going with Adelaide. Now, my brother's actually going to be making a surprise tip here. He is going with Hawthorn. He has said that the Hawks have won their past 3 games against Adelaide. Sicily seems to be back in form, and this really comes down to the midfields of both sides. He does say that Connor Nash will probably go to Dawson, and if they are any shot of winning this game, he has to shut him down. So, interesting call there. He's going with Hawthorn at Adelaide Oval. Weren't very good there against Port Adelaide earlier in the year in gather round, so interesting matchup, but he's going with Hawthorn, trying to gain up a couple of tips on the league. I don't think he has any chance of winning, but I guess, I do respect the fact that he's going with a bit of a roughie here. Not many people, when I posted that Tik Tok clip last week about my tips for the round, really enjoyed the fact that I tipped Port Adelaide as a roughie. And look, to be honest, they were 100% right. Port Adelaide sucked. But anyway, enough bagging the power. Let's get to the next game. Collingwood up against Brisbane. Of course, the 2023 grand final rematch, if you could call it that. Two teams that are going to be right up there at the end of the season. Collingwood back on the winners list last week after 2 losses against the Suns and the Dockers the week prior, while Brisbane are coming off a very bad loss against the Gold Coast in trying conditions. Now, of course, these two teams will be vying for top spot towards the end of the season, and if Brisbane do find a way to win this game, they give themselves a really big chance of getting themselves the minor premiership for the first time since being the Brisbane Lions. However, Brisbane haven't been able to beat Collingwood since round 23 of the 2023 season, and more importantly, they haven't been able to beat the Pies at the MCG since 2014. But in saying that, the Lions have already broken one big hoodoo so far this season with that win down in the Geelong earlier in the year. So I guess they have some good form in that front. Now, the last time these two teams met, Nick Dacos had a field day. He had 38 touches, 12 score involvements, 8 clearances, and over 600 metres gained along with a goal. So someone I think has to run with him throughout the night. Now, Brisbane haven't exactly had a shutdown tagger in more recent times. However, they have had players who have done run with jobs, especially at stoppage with the likes of Dunkley and Jared Berry. But they didn't do it to really good effect last week when the likes of Rao and Anderson got on top for the Gold Coast. So I think it's more likely that they're going to go head to head in the midfield battle. But I do think that Brisbane need to seriously consider going after at least Nick Dacos at stoppage. I would more likely like to see them go around the ground fully, but at least at stoppage they need to try and shut him down. Now, last week the Lions couldn't get their mark kick game going with the terrible conditions. So if Collingwood can stop them in this game with their kick mark sort of methodical ball movement, then I really can't see a way where Brisbane win this game. But if the Lions can make the ground big, isolate their key forwards like Fremantle did a few weeks ago, then I can definitely see a way where the Lions can get up here. Brisbane don't tend to lose 2 games in a row, but on the other hand, if Collingwood lose this, it would be 3 losses out of their last 4 games. So it's a tough pick. However, home ground advantage and the recent meetings between the two sides, I'm going to be going with Collingwood. I think they've had their down period over the last month or so, haven't been in great form, but I think right now, towards the peak of the season, I think they're going to start hitting their red hot form, the Pies. I can see a world where Brisbane can get up in this game. However, I'm going to be going with Collingwood. I can't see them losing this game at the MCG, and I really do expect that Nick Dacos is going to have an absolute blinder in this one. Now, my brother again is going to be going with a rough pick this one. He is going to be picking Brisbane. He says that he trusts the Lions defence to hold up against the Pies forwards, and he does expect a response from Brisbane after a very poor performance last week in the Q Clash. So, a couple of roughy picks for him, but the final game I want to take a look at is a bit of an interesting one for mine. It's St Kilda up against North Melbourne. Now, if it wasn't for the results in last last week's game, I honestly could see a world where this is an actual 50-50 contest. But let's talk about round 20 last week, because first of all, for St Kilda, 3/4 time of that game, I would have forgiven a lot of St Kilda fans for going home early, catching the train and getting home into their nice warm beds, because they were not very good in the first 3 quarters against Melbourne. However, the Saints stormed home, led by Wanganeen-Milera, and to record an absolutely famous win. One of the more famous wins we've seen from St Kilda in at least 3 or 4 years. And I also think we can't forget the likes of Max Hall here. What a performance he had, very much overshadowed by Wanganeen-Milera, which I mean 100% warranted. But Max Hall against Melbourne had 13 score involvements and 5 direct goal assists. So I think it's absolutely insane from a guy that I don't even think was on an AFL list last year. Very underrated performance from him, very underrated season for mine as well. But before the final quarter came for St Kilda, they were down by 46 points and had lost their last 6 games before that matchup. So despite a famous win last week, they haven't been in great form. But in saying that, North Melbourne's round 20 contest, I think it was pretty safe to say that no one really saw that result coming. Granted, no one thought the Roos were going to beat the Cats, but I don't think anyone would have expected that sort of flogging. And with that loss, North Melbourne are now on a 5-game losing streak since their massive win against Carlton back in round 15. And all those losses for the Kangas have all been over 30 points. So they haven't even been close to a win in the last 5 weeks. Now, Nick Larkey may return this week, but Cherry is also a week away with his suspension. So even though both teams haven't been in the greatest of form in recent weeks before round 20, with that final quarter from St Kilda, I think they're going to get up for the rest of the season. I'm going to be going with the Saints. And I think the big thing here is I don't really see a world where North Melbourne can stop Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera. I know the guy's been, glazed for the last few days. 100% warranted, by the way. This guy's going to be an absolute gun. But, I mean, we've seen North Melbourne have Will Phillips tag in the past. Will Phillips is in keeping with Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera. And let's say he can at in the midfield where he's moved to now. Look how he did up forward in that last quarter. Just skied mark, 2 against 1, just jumped up, took a great mark, kicked a clutch goal. Kicked 2 clutch goals, obviously. But there's no way North Melbourne can stop him as well. So that's why I'm going with St Kilda. I think they get this one done pretty comfortably in the end. And hopefully they can rally, have a couple of really good performances towards the end of the year. Interesting to see how that one works out on the re-signing of Nasiah, or if he decides to leave. Either way, it's going to be a big talking point. Now, my brother quickly has also tipped the Saints. He said that North Melbourne don't have a matchup for Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera, and that's what will hurt them in the end. Nick Larkey should be back, but I trust the Saints defense to be able to hold up against the Roos forward. But guys, with that being said, let's get to our full tips for round 21. So my tips are GWS to beat the Western Bulldogs, the Crows to beat Hawthorn, Melbourne to beat West Coast, the Gold Coast to beat Richmond, Sydney to beat Essendon, Collingwood to beat Brisbane, St Kilda to beat North Melbourne, Geelong to beat Port Adelaide, and Fremantle to beat Carlton. And my brother's full tips for round 21 are GWS to beat the Dogs, Hawthorn to beat the Crows, Melbourne to beat West Coast, Gold Coast to beat Richmond, Sydney to beat Essendon, Brisbane to beat Collingwood, St Kilda to beat North Melbourne, Geelong to beat Port Adelaide, and Fremantle to beat Carlton. But of course, guys, we have to mention our certainty tips for this week. My brother got the first pick this week. He has said that he is going to be picking the Swans over Essendon. Of course, Sydney losing to the Giants last week. And my certainty tip, even though it's very hesitant, I've had to go with Melbourne to beat West Coast. Of course, the D's choking against the Saints last week. And finally, guys, let's take a look at the tipping ladder for the channel. And because I went with a couple of roughies last week, I have slipped down the list. I have dropped to 4th place. The boy from SNB has jumped me on his margin as much better at picking the margin than me. Very good performance from him to jump in there. Braxton got 8 out of 9. Could have had a full round and got right up with Leviticus. Leviticus, I think he tipped Port Adelaide as well. I'm sorry to him if he did listen to me and I changed his tip, so to speak. But, I mean, I could have got that tip, bro. I shouldn't have trusted Port. I thought they would get up for Ken Hinkley, and in that second half, they just folded. So that's what I get for trusting the power. Looking at a few more names on the list. Yo Duashui. I love that name. He's in 5th spots with 2 tips behind me. A couple of people still trying to charge up. I don't think many people have their joker left. So I think this is going to be pretty hard to run down Leviticus at this stage. He's 4 tips in front of second, 6 tips in front of me. I've made a couple of... I think the GWS Giants could be a bit of a roughy pick this week, but there's not a lot of roughy picks for mine. I'm keeping it a little bit safe this week and see what happens. And then next week, in the next couple of weeks after, maybe I'll go a couple of roughy picks later on. But so now, guys, of course, we get to our betting segment for this episode. And we actually have the man himself who brings us the betting segment with us. Have you got a special podcast exclusive bet that you have brought over the journey, but obviously the last couple of months you haven't been here. So have you actually got an exclusive one for the podcast?
Yeah, so this has been like, what, 2 months in the making?
Oh, well, I mean, it would have to be. I mean, you haven't been here for a couple of months. I would expect the best out of you here.
Yeah, I just went with Adam Chair against his former side on Sunday night, just for 20 plus.
That's your big one. You think that's going to make a huge amount of money? I'm thinking a couple of million.
It's actually pretty good odds at the moment. It's $1.40 so far on Sportsbet, so I think that's pretty good odds.
So 20 plus for Adam Chair against the former side. That's your call. All right, we'll make that the bet for the podcast. But guys, of course, let's get into my Full Brothers betting segment for round 21.
Let's get into round 21 of the AFL. As always, we'll start with our same-game multi for Thursday Night Football. Bulldogs v Giants at Marvel Stadium. First leg is Lachie Whitfield to pick up 25-plus disposals. Second leg is Tom Green for 25-plus disposals. Third leg is Bailey Williams for 15-plus disposals. Fourth leg is Xavier O'Halloran for 15-plus disposals. And the final leg is Jake Riccardi to kick a goal, valued at $3.75. My certainty bet this week, I'll be taking Jacob Popper for 25-plus disposals against the Suns on Saturday afternoon, valued at $1.33. And to finish as always, guys, with the outside the boundary bet. This week I'll be taking Sean Darcy to kick a goal against the Blues on Sunday afternoon, valued at $3.05. And as always, guys, gamble responsibly.
So now we get to AFL fantasy segment. We have you here just to talk about how arrogant and cocky you were about beating me, and you still lost this week.
Yeah, I looked at the table on Sunday night and I was like, how the hell did you pull that out when you didn't have Bontempelli, you didn't have Grundy?
Yeah, I just had all the other. I had a more consistent defense, I think.
Yeah,
Your defense had Naz, and then it was kind of like... Yeah.
For the first time in a long time, well, first time all season, I think you say, is that Ash had a poor performance. Jordan Clark had a poor performance, and so did Stewart. And I was thinking at the start of it, because I got rid of McKercher the week before.
You got rid of McKercher?
I did, because the fact is that I thought that Stewart would play better, and I thought, well, he's bottomed out as well with.
Yeah, I think he scored a
McKercher, so I got in. What was it? But I got in Bond. So I thought, well, that was going to be the better option, but it wasn't.
You probably should have picked Stewart.
I wish I went Stewart, but he came back from injury. Like he was going to play this week after his injury, so I thought, let's go. Go with the more experienced player.
I mean, to be fair, they were playing North. It was going to be. It wasn't down.
I thought it was going to. Well, that was the thing is that. But if I thought if they got it in there a bit, he'd accept everything.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into the review for AFL Fantasy for round 20. After a very good Sunday, I would say, it wasn't really the best round, but a good Sunday from some of my players. I did score 2,318, which is a round rank of 21,894. So I did see a lot of people throughout the AFL Fantasy community get very high scores throughout the weekend, and a lot of them had to do with players like Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera with the 147, Nick Dacos with the 146, Bontempelli as well with the 146. There are a bunch of other ones as well. Now, we'll cover the ones from my team first of all. Like I said, Wanganeen-Milera with the 147, Sheasel 111, Holmes 118, Whitfield 109, McKercher 104, Smith with the 132, Dawson 106, Nick Dacos as captain with the 146 as well, Zach Merritt 115, Gawn 123, Kennedy 101. So all of them I'm pretty happy with. Good scores from all of them. Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera, we're not really too much about the game here on the review for fantasy, but what a game from him, and what a second half, what a last quarter as well. I think I saw this was Supercoach. I think he scored in 30 seconds of football like 64 points or something. It was absolutely crazy for Supercoach watchers, but AFL Fantasy saw some great scores from him as well. 147, that's absolutely insane. And yeah, I mean, what a game from him. Thank God I brought him in a couple of weeks ago. I had to bring him in for Connor Rosie, so a good decision from me in the end. There were a couple of lesser lights throughout the weekend. Tom Stewart only got 62, pretty disappointing. Andrew Brayshaw, 82. Tom Green, 72. Rowan Marshall probably would have wanted a little bit more from him, 88. Isaac Rankin, 64. Caleb Daniels, 60. Chad Warner, 70. So a couple of disappointing scores in the end, but overall a pretty happy week for me. But now let's move to my brother's team, and he was very, very cocky after Friday night when he had his vice captain on Marcus Bontempelli. He had him on 146, of course, 292. But the rest of the weekend didn't exactly go to plan for him, because you can see his score. He scored lower than me last week. He scored 2,309. So that's 9 points lower. So not that much of a difference. But if you heard him talk about how great he was throughout the week, throughout those first couple of days, you would have been smiling like me. Now, he did have a couple of really good scorers over the week. He had Zach Butters with the 115. He also had Brody Grundy with the 130. But overall, he had a lot of the lower scores from his players as well. He had Lockie Ash, lowest score of the year, I believe, for him was 65. Jordan Clark only got 68 in the Derby. Tom Liberatore only got 78. He did get subbed out in that game, though. Rory Laird only got 86 in the end. And then probably a couple of the players that I sort of had. He also had Liam McMahon in his team. He took out Taj Houghton, took 49 from McMahon. And, I mean, Houghton scored exactly the same, so not exactly a big difference there, but overall, I mean, he probably should have done a bit better, but I'm more than happy to have a little bit of a smile, have a little bit of a chuckle about the fact that he was so cocky about it throughout the week and then had his team just capitulate itself. He did have a couple of players like me that on Sunday that were like very high scorers, but I think everyone had the likes of Dacos, Wanganeen-Milera. He had Bontempelli. I didn't have Bontempelli. I had a couple of other players like shine out compared to his. But let's move to the trades for the week, of course. So my trades at this stage are going to be Johnson out for Buzzlinger and Stewart out for Josh Dunkley. Now, Johnson at this point, he's cashed out. Probably should have got rid of him a few weeks ago. He's dropping so much in money. So, unfortunately, I didn't get rid of him earlier, but I've got Buzzlinger at this stage. I think he will stay in for the Dogs the next couple of weeks, hopefully. Get up a little bit more. Maybe a player that I can get rid of in the last couple of weeks. And Tom Stewart, look, he may score well for the rest of the year, and I'll just be a little bit unlucky. But the fact is, he's on 814 right now. He got injured 2 weeks ago. Last week, he only got 62. He may well score very well from here, but 814 in price. I think it's about time to get rid of him. He's going to have to score a very big score in the next couple of weeks to have his price actually increase. So I'm more than happy to get rid of him. Swap Tom McCarthy into defense, and then I'm going to get Josh Dunkley. That may change. I did look at a couple of his scores throughout the last 3 weeks. He scored brilliantly, Dunkley, but a lot of them are to do with his tackles. So at the MCG against Collingwood this week, I could see a world where he has a lot of tackles as well, like 10 plus, but he's probably going to have to hit that mark for him to have an actual chance of getting a very, very good score, which I do kind of need right now. Now, my brother's trades for the week at this stage are Johnson out for Camperali. That's probably just a placeholder, and he's got rid of Liddy for Jai Simpkin in his forward line. Now, he has told me the reason why he's got Jai Simpkin is he's the best forward out of anyone that he could get from going into finals because he can't have Houghton in his team. He's playing in a different league and he needs a forward to like take over Taj Houghton. So I understand that, but Jai Simpkin, bro, Jack, seriously, just Jai Simpkin of all players. Anyway, look, who knows? He may respond this week. They've got St Kilda, so maybe a good score could be coming. But yeah, it's very interesting. He's obviously going for the league, for his league, not so much on the channels competition, which he should be looking at a lot more because right now, if you're looking at the league, we'll first start with the top 10, of course, for the channel. We do have the Cheetah Cubs in top spot, continues to hold that top spot, leads by nearly 200 points on the Welshman. Third spot is Delusional Fools, who's a little bit off the pace of them two guys. Those two are probably going to be fighting it out for top spot in the league as well. Len Never Pretends is in fourth spot. Fifth is Naders Nippers. Not really much movement in the top 10 so this week. Knick Knack Paddywhack did jump into sixth spot, though. Good to see. Tex Wonkers in seventh. We got Goonaville in eighth. X-Men in ninth. And Wizards of Bontsville in 10th spot. So the top 10 are pretty well set at this stage. Not much movement in the last few weeks there. But looking down the line at me and my brother, where we are on the ladder, we're around mid-table. My brother has dropped from 40, I think he was 40th last week. He's dropped down to 42nd, and I have dropped down to 45th. I was in 43rd last week, but a couple of you guys are scoring really well. You can see there that Neil before Bullen scored 2,480. That's a very good score. DeMaster's got 2,410. A couple of players didn't do too well. The Swans Rules 2008, not the greatest, 2,140. I don't know how he would have done that. That's not a very good score at all. But looking at me and my brother, he is only less than 100 points in front now. He's 97 points in front of me at this stage, and between me and him, me and Peach Eagles, who was just in front of him, we are 95 points the difference. So there is 95 points splitting 41st and 45th. I'd like to finish in the top 40. That's about not even 100. It's only not even 200 points. Not even 200 points that I could jump to 39th. So that would be nice. Going to be tough though. At this stage, probably getting rid of those last couple of rookies that I've had to bring in throughout the last few weeks or months. Or not rookies, but players that are like mid-price that have like had good form, like Tom Stewart, like Tom McCarthy. Did score well in the Derby though, so he could probably stay an extra week or two. But at this stage, it's probably him, Chera, Caleb Daniel, and Isaac Rankin that I'm really looking to probably move on in the next 4 weeks towards the end of the season and hopefully jump up. But at this stage, those are my trades. That's my team going into the next week, guys. So make sure to let me know down below your trades going into AFL Fantasy. If you're in an AFL Fantasy League, if you are in our competition, make sure to let me know. And finally, we get to our fan favourite segment, the Flog of the Week. This is the first time you've been here for a couple of months, the Flog of the Week. And I think it's one that I think most AFL fans are pretty sick of. It is the fixture. Now, I'm going to be directing this one at Andrew Dillon. He has, I think, got a nomination earlier in the year, and I don't know if he's going to get the year. I don't know if he's going to win the whole award. It's not based on how many nominations you get. It's on the act that you make, and I don't know if this is going to get it. But the fact that they still have not decided the fixture for the rest of the season, for the round 24, and also the fact that they're still waiting until next week, maybe even the week after, until they mention when the Gold Coast Essendon game is going to be played. Now, so Andrew Dillon gets the Flog of the Week this week. First of all, the fixture has been a joke this season. One, for the fact that the Thursday nights and Friday nights have been abysmal, basically since the middle of the season.
When they thought that they put Essendon and Carlton as the primetime teams.
Yeah, I don't know why they've put them two as the primetime teams. Like, for one, Collingwood, if you want to pick a Victorian team, Collingwood is up the top. Hawthorn is up the top. Pick them two, for fuck's sake, if you want to pick Victorian teams. Also, the Crows were in good form in the middle of the year. So I think they made the fixture, what was it, round 8? Or it would have been that point. The Crows were in pretty decent form at that point. Brisbane are up there. They've got a couple of those games. But Sydney, I know they weren't in the greatest of form, but they didn't have a lot of Thursday or Friday night games either.
You got to think, like, even just like recent history over years. Who's the one team who hasn't won a final in this century? Essendon. Let's put them on a primetime game. They seem good. They have been great for the last 3 or 4 years. Oh wait, no, they haven't. They have done nothing in the last 3 to 4 bloody years.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, with a slight thought, I understand a little bit of Carlton because they've been around the 8 at least for the last 2 or 3 years. They've been around that area. But what are they doing on? And I think maybe you could get to a point where we don't need to do one half. Maybe we need to do this in maybe 8-week thirds of like the fixture. I know some people need a plan to go to games. That's more than fair, and I understand that argument. But do we really want to see Essendon again in a fucking primetime game, or Carlton for fuck's sake? Like, you're picking at this point. I mean, North Melbourne are getting Thursday night games. Like, why the fuck are we seeing North Melbourne and against the Western Bulldogs, or the Bulldogs against Essendon? It's like, we know how that's going to go. It's gone like that for 4 years. The Dogs flogged them. Like, do we need to see that again? Like, surely you pick Hawthorn. You pick Collingwood, who are around the mark this year. You pick Geelong, for fuck's sake.
You pick the reigning premiers.
Yeah, you pick the reigning premiers. You pick Sydney. You pick the Giants. Like, pick the Giants against someone who's a big big game that's in a state. Like, do we have to see Essendon v fucking, what was it, the Dogs last week? Who the hell was watching that? Like, thank God the Sydney Derby was on, and even that wasn't that great a game. But at least there's something there to cut that one out.
Yeah, and then you look at, like, say Gold Coast. They've had one primetime game on Thursday, Friday this year. Two, because one was in the NT.
Yeah.
They've been a fun team to watch. The Crows have been a fun team to watch. The Hawks have been a fun team to watch. The Giants, as you said, the fun team to watch. This, fast, good football, high-scoring football.
Yeah.
You don't pick the highest-scoring team in the Crows. And
then they put the showdown. I mean, I know the showdown was a 95-point loss, right? But that surely could have been the Thursday night game. Like, we put the showdown at a primetime slot. Like, no, like, yes, it was a shocker. But again, I don't even know if that game would have really been that bad if it was played at a good time and the weather was okay. Because I think Port, when they realised it was cold, the fucking half-time they realised they were going to lose, they just stopped. Like, do you think Port Adelaide maybe stop if it's a nice night, Thursday night? Maybe they don't. I don't know. Like, fucking, who knows how Port Adelaide get up for some games. Like, sometimes they're like, yeah, we're right up and about for you, Ken. And sometimes we're like, fuck you, Ken. I hope you fucking die.
Well, like, if you look at it, like, last week was like a makeshift rivalry round. 3 of the rivalries were on Saturday.
Yeah.
In the Q Clash, the Derby, and the Showdown.
Yeah, why is the
spread it
Derby
around? Why spread it around? Like, put the Sunday Derby as what normally happens. The Q Clash on Saturday, the Battle of the Bridge on Friday, and the Showdown Thursday. One on each day. You have spread it around.
And considering how the Gold Coast were at the start of the season, you could have put that one at a prime time slot because the Gold Coast were in good form and Brisbane are obviously the reigning premiers, so that could have been a game that you watch. Now, look, the whole round as a whole last week was pretty bad. Let's be real. Like it wasn't if it wasn't for the Saints, it would have been a fucking terrible round.
I think they were saying before Saturday the average margin was 11 goals.
Yeah, it was a shocking round.
And then what? The 40-point loss really was the Richmond game.
Who would have thought the Richmond
Saints saved football? Saints saved football last week.
Well, I mean, one or two people. I mean, Max Hall. Either way, got to mention it. But it was very good. But St Kilda, they saved the round, really. Like, everyone's talking about the round as a whole because the rest, they were lucky. Because if that wasn't there, most of the talking points this week would have been around how bad football is because we have such a gap in the market. Because there's such a huge gap in the teams. But anyway, the real reason why while Andrew Dillon is getting the flog of the week, yes, for the games on Thursday and Friday night, he did make an excuse for it too. Like, it's just an outlier. It's like, yeah, it is a bit of an outlier. We've seen, like, in previous years that Thursdays and Fridays have been pretty successful. Yeah. But it's your own doing as well. Like, you're picking games that no one wants to watch. That's on you. And
no one wants to go to them.
Yeah. By the way, the crowds are fucking terrible for those games. But also, the game of the Gold Coast and Essendon, that's going to be one of the biggest fucking eyesores I've ever seen. Because yes, it could make a decider for the Gold Coast to make finals if it's around that point of the year. But it could also be an absolute dead rubber if the Gold Coast don't make it. Or it's going to mean absolutely nothing for the Gold Coast because they've already made finals. But all three of those scenarios don't matter because Essendon are going to get done by 10 goals at a minimum because they have got so many injuries. Yeah. So I get that the AFL couldn't have done much about it because of the game was cancelled right at the start of the season with the cyclone in Brisbane, which I mean is maybe another reason why we shouldn't have opening round. I know that was obviously not their fault for opening round, but also opening round's fucking a shit idea. Yeah. So I don't know. I think overall we can get rid of opening round. Maybe that's what my final statement is. But yeah, overall Andrew Dillon, stupid decision for that whole round as a whole. Stupid the fact that the games that they've picked for Thursday and Friday night, that's on you. I know it's an outlier because other people can say, oh, well, they've had really good in previous years. But because you keep on picking teams like Essendon, like North Melbourne, like Carlton to have these primetime games, when you could be picking interstate clubs that deserve them, like the Crows, like the Gold Coast, like the Giants, you're picking Victorian teams, or two of them because they're big, like Essendon and Carlton, but then North Melbourne as well. Like, are you watching the games, or are you sitting in your castle just fucking saying, ugh, they're a big club, just pick them? No. It's been a shit year for Thursday, Friday night games. It's almost at this point where Sunday is becoming prime time. Yeah. There's a lot of Sunday games that have been pretty good this season. But anyway, that's pretty much all we've got for this episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, guys. Episode 123. My brother returned for this episode. It was a good return. I think he was good on return. Let's see if he does return next week, though. I mean, this is up to his boss at this point. But, guys, if you did enjoy this episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, of course, make sure to like and subscribe over on YouTube. And if you are over on Spotify, make sure to leave us 5 stars and make sure to follow so you're notified on the podcast and the review every single week. But again, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll catch us all next week.
Hopefully see you guys next week.
Yeah, hopefully.